Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. My name's Gino. I'm gonna be your host today. We got Kyle. I'm gonna butcher your last name, Chiasson. How do I say
Pretty
it?
close. It's Chiasson. That's pretty close though.
All right, cool. And he's out of Colorado. I'll let him introduce his business, where he's from, how long he's been in it, and kind of we'll start rolling from there.
Cool. As you mentioned, my name is Kyle Chiasson, and I'm out of the South Denver area in Colorado. I actually grew up here and moved away for about 6 years to Walla Walla, Washington. And then I moved back to start my company, which is Best Option Restoration.
Nice.
We bread and butter of our business is water mitigation, disaster response. So we're typical situation is homeowner comes home and their kitchen ceiling has fell through and they panic and they need somebody to come get the water out for them. Or they run down to their basements. Here in Colorado, almost every home has a basement. So they go down to their basement, carpets squishing, and they know they have an issue, so they'll call us out there as well. And those are two of the frequent calls that we get. In addition, we do structure cleaning when somebody has smoke damage or fire damage, as well as mold remediation when they let that water sit a little bit too long and the moisture problem creates a mold issue.
Gotcha. But mainly you focus on more water damage, or you called it something else. Water, said something. Water damage. Water,
I think I said water removal, water extraction, water removal, water damage mitigation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all terms that can be used somewhat synonymously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what is, how long you been in business? When did you get started?
Yeah, so I got started in 2017.
Okay.
In June of 2017. So I'm almost 2-3 full years, but I'm in my third year now.
Yeah.
And I actually came from banking. So I was in wealth management, and long story short, we're a franchise.
Yeah.
So our sister company is called BioOne. They're one of the largest crime and trauma scene cleaning companies in their franchises in the US. But the founder there was starting his name's Nick Zamison. He was starting his next franchise, and he was a friend of my mom's. And he said, we got to talking, unrelated to me starting a restoration company at all. We were just talking, and he's successful. So I was just picking his brain because I was 23 at the time.
Yeah.
And I said, man, what has made you successful? What's your story? Just getting to know each other. And then a couple months went by, and I just knew inside I wasn't fit for the career that I was in. And so he said, hey, why don't you come open up a franchise here in the South Denver area? And I said, okay. So I quit my job and opened up a shop back in 2017.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So along that, what were some of the key struggles you had when you're first getting started?
Yeah, good question.
So it's a little bit of a transition from wealth management to
yeah, it was a huge transition. I never thought I'd be in the restoration industry at all, and so opening up, I would say one of the bigger struggles when you first get started is the cash flow. You do a job and you might get a down payment or a deductible collected, but ultimately until that project's completed, you're waiting on funds. And sometimes we bill directly with the client, and we do work with insurance carriers as well. And when that happens, there's documentation that's needed, and the process can take a little bit longer. And so you're sitting on all this expense out, especially as a new business. Waiting 30 days on the money is tough, and being inexperienced in that, I learned a lot on just how to properly scope a project and how to communicate better. But the biggest struggle was the cash flow.
Yeah.
So I'm in a lot better spot now, but I moved back home. When I first started, I moved back in with my parents, which was honestly, it made it possible. I would have made it work either way, but it was so much less less stressful
I believe it.
in the position that I was in, not having to worry about rent.
Thank God for that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hear
Praise the Lord for my parents.
you. Hey, man. Some people are so lucky. Goodness gracious. So, if you had to start over from day one, would you have done anything differently? You know, if you could go back, you know, hindsight's 2020, but you know, is there anything that you would have changed kind of or focused on more directly or kind of worked to position yourself better in the market faster? Anything along those lines that really popped to mind? Or
It's tough because there's nothing particular I'm thinking as I start to talk, maybe something will pop out, but so much of what you learn happens through experience. So it's hard to say, yeah. So I think if I would do it differently, I would know my specific processes now.
yeah,
However, so much of that, the experience is invaluable. So to say, yeah, I would go back and change some things. Yes, to an extent, but at the same time, it's irreplaceable. I can't even put my finger to really answer your question. I can't put my finger on something that I say, oh, I would definitely change this aspect.
I hear you.
I think one area, I guess, that pops out, and it's somewhat in line with the question, but you're communicating your message and marketing has gotten easier in the sense that I have a deeper understanding of the problem that I'm solving for our customer, and my network has grown also. So you can build up momentum a little bit quicker. Like if I wanted to launch a new service line now,
Yeah,
there's an existing network. We have trust and a reputation in the community. You can't start and have that in my position. So I don't know if I really change that, but if I could take the messaging I use now and the understanding I have now and start with that, I would certainly be ahead of schedule for sure.
what's that message you keep talking about? What is that message for you today?
So the message that we say is that we take the worry out of the issue. So we take the worry out of water damage for the customer, because it's not the worst day they've ever had usually when we get called, but it's a really bad day. And
Right.
different situations can certainly escalate the severity. Like, are they in town, out of town? Is it a tenant? Is it a more hazardous, water loss, or is there a very traumatic fire that happened? So that can escalate how bad of a day based on how they're feeling. So, but be able to come in there and be the professional and say, we have you taken care of. We have empathy, knowing that this situation sucks, but we're here for you, and we're going to help you get through this, and ultimately, get the property back to how it's supposed to be.
Handle it for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what. What's the toughest part about owning your business today in 2020? And I haven't even started talking about the COVID stuff, but like, what's that been like? How's that been affecting
Yeah.
you guys?
So what I've kind of been saying about COVID is it's going to expose you. And I don't mean that in a bad way necessarily. It could be in a really good way. So if you have tendencies to be a positive or a get stuff done type of person, this is likely exploiting that to a greater degree. And so I'm positive, I can acknowledge the situation is not fun for any of us, and there's a lot of bad that's happening. I'm taking my situation, okay, what are the positive things and what can I learn from this so that I can, do better in the future. So how that has looked for me and the impact, and one of the, I guess I would call it a tougher part, is I realized I was not as organized, and I don't think you could truly know that COVID was coming, but I still wasn't prepared for an event like this to happen.
I don't think anybody was, man. So
Right.
don't beat yourself up.
No, yeah, and I'm not beating myself up. It's just the truth of, why don't I run a higher inventory normally of supplies, for example? Why? The other part that it started to is I just realized I was very, not very unorganized, but not as organized as I should be. Right. And so it's made me take a really good look at my processes and systems and started to work on each one of those. How are we inventorying our stuff? is everyone on board with, okay, the procedures that we use through mitigation, not from oh, how do you cut drywall or how do you categorize this loss, but how are we communicating? Is it consistent throughout? Are we communicating to the team throughout? Are we using our software in the same manner? Because the data is only as good as what you put in.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. And then it's actually brought, just light to those are areas that we can get more organized on and ultimately will make us a better company moving forward.
How big is your operation currently?
We have 5 employees.
Nice.
So we're a small restoration shop.
Yeah. Still though, I mean, 3 years. What is your like number one source of new jobs and new calls that are coming from?
So the number one source is going to be from insurance agents. We have a pretty good diverse mix, but I've concentrated my efforts on really connecting with agents. And I find there are insurance agents, and these are the ones we work really well with, but they communicate to their client how much of an asset they are. And really it's more than just, hey, here's your policy. There's a lot agents can do for you. So communicating that we can be seen as a resource for you and ultimately help you with client retention by providing good service when a claim comes up. That's been my number one source. And that's where when I first got started, that's, where I focused on the most. But we do some lead gen and online advertising, Google, and there's different lead gen services that we use. We get some organic traffic, not a ton, but as we get bigger, it's definitely picking up. And as we communicate more to the market and just have more jobs, it creates remarketing opportunities.
Yeah.
Sorry, just 1 second. I am at home and.
No worries. You're good.
Okay.
I'll pause it for a second.
No, cool. All right. I'm back. I just had to shut my door. And my wife just got home.
All good. That's awesome, man. That was my next question. Like currently, have you seen, I know there's some businesses that have really taken a lot of their operations virtually and online and started utilizing the internet like they haven't before in the past, just because everyone's at home today. Have you noticed an increase in work recently with any of the jobs popping up? I was talking to a guy out in California. He said like there's been more kitchen fires and more flood work in like the past 30 days.
And so for us, that was my guess as to what would happen. Right now, that hasn't happened. We're steady. We haven't seen a huge dip, and and emergency work is going to be kind of roller coaster anyways from a day-to-day, week-to-week standpoint. Mm-hmm. But I think after this is all said and done, there could be an uptick in claims and just not even claims, just projects, given more wear and tear is being put on properties right now. And let's say one consideration, if somebody's home and they see their toilet supply line leaking, well, they're home, they can turn it off right away. Typically they might use the bathroom in the morning, they go to work, they don't even know that it's leaking or that something's happened while they're gone. By the time they get home, that's a lot of water goes a lot of places in an 8-hour period. Gotcha. So for us, we're still steady, but we haven't seen an increase. We haven't seen a heavy decrease. It's surprisingly somewhat normal at this point.
Yeah.
And as far as our operations, you started hitting on that, I've put more emphasis on our online visibility, just to summarize it, but I haven't added, here's a new marketing channel I'm going to add. I'm looking into more emphasis. I'm definitely putting more attention there, but I haven't made any drastic changes at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it's just moving forward with where you're at. I get it. Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I've changed I'm in growth mode, and we've grown from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. We've continued to have really good growth. This year we've had pretty good growth to start, and
circumstances.
Yeah, especially considering the circumstances. So my goals haven't changed per se, and how I'm looking at things, but where that attention needs to shift. Do we need to have more involvement in paid advertising, or do we need to find different ways to be connecting with people at I'm depth over width. So how do we build more depth with, say, an insurance agent, to where that they're going to trust us to call us out there, when usually we do that by being face to face. We can't do that right now. We can have Zoom calls. We're on one right now. That's great, but it's not the norm. So asking somebody that doesn't know you to get on the Zoom call with you is a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
You got to build the common ground. I mean, you're out here. We didn't know each other before before the Zoom call, but it was, it's a really cool thing what you're doing, and you were persistent about it, and I'm happy to be here. But still, it's not a normal. The point I'm making is it's not a normal operation. Hey, you want to jump on a Zoom call with me? It's getting there, but it's not what we're used to in our environment.
Well, it's weird too, because like you hear this preached in different industries online of, or online or businesses of like that giving more value up front to, really gain, just to get that conversation started and whatever started. And it's interesting because what I'm noticing are businesses or people that wouldn't normally have to do that per se are having to do that more, especially right now, just because of the circumstances,
Yep.
Just something I noticed.
And it's like adapt or sink. If you don't adapt, eventually you're gonna lose out.
So I think you've touched on this a little bit. As you're adapting right now, you're starting to like look at how you can gain more market share in your market. Like, what are other tools and resources you can do, other ways of really establishing those relationships with people that you can partner up with. What are, some of your goals with that? Short-term, long-term benchmarks? This is one I always like asking, of just like, I know COVID-19 is kind of this unknown circumstance going on right now, but like, say it lasts another month or two, like, okay, cool. Like, but what's like a 6-month benchmark that you're looking at, a year benchmark, some goals that you're looking to accomplish this year, and also like, what's kind of the grand scope of where you're looking to take your business over the next 5-10 years? Have those been? I'm sure it sounds like they're thoughts you've had. Some people are happy with where they're at and want to consistently grow. Haven't really thought about that too much, but be curious to hear what your thoughts are around that.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to answer your question.
Yeah.
In a direct way as possible, but a couple, I guess, benchmarks I look at. So in the emergency response restoration industry that we're in, I look at call volume, right? Because is somebody calling me with a need that we offer, meaning we've communicated to that person that we can help them, whether that's through an insurance agent, through the internet, through an old customer, they landed on our website. How did we communicate that? So if they're calling us, first of all, that means we've communicated some sort of value and they think we can solve their problem. Mm-hmm. Then secondly is it an actual, lead or job? And we don't know how big that project could be. It could be $1,000, something really minor.
Yeah.
It could be most of what we do is residential. It could be a $20,000 mitigation job at someone's house or larger. We do some commercial, but light commercial. So my goals go for call volume. So we average anywhere from 3 to 6 projects a week in a normal week. That obviously sometimes slower, sometimes nobody's sleeping. So I want to take that, from 3 to 6 to 6 to 10. Mm. And then you look at that goal and, okay, do we have, from a utilization standpoint, do we need more employees to accomplish that 6 to 10, or could we be more efficient with who we have and give more responsibility? It's a mix of that.
Yeah.
But what I have noticed about myself, like I really so on the side, I coach volleyball and basketball right now.
Yeah.
And coaching sports, in my opinion, is not much different than running a business with your team. So I really enjoy that aspect. uh, I value flexibility. I'll work 18 hours in a day if I have to. I'll work very hard, but I like to be flexible.
Yeah.
When you're in this industry, if you have to be on site running the job, you can't be very flexible. You have to be there in order to make the job work, and at the end of the day, make money. So I look at how can I increase my flexibility. And the thing I also enjoy building relationships. I enjoy marketing. And the third aspect is that team side of how can I help my team members do their job better, or how can I support them and lead them to be successful too. That's where I like to spend my time. So if I had to say, if we're talking benchmarks, like I want to be in that space as much as I can, if not all the time.
Right.
So when I'm building, I'm looking at, well, are we building towards that, or are we building away from that? And if the step we're about to take takes us away from that, there better be a very good reason why. So in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Yeah.
If I could look at what benchmarks are.
It's awesome. No, it's yeah, people summarize it in different ways. It's interesting to hear how people tick, you know.
Yeah.
It's some people, yeah, it is interesting how you've broken it down though, looking at it like that though, you know, because like obviously if you focus on the stuff that you're doing right now, like they all add up together. They build up, they build into each other, and they you know, all starts rolling, or the steps start stacking because you're taking these little actions. I think it's funny, people can forget how small, like even the small things can play into larger things. You know, those things don't just happen overnight. But
yeah, not at all. There's one of the quotes to that statement is, we overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 years. And I don't think that could be more true. Because a year goes by quick, but 5 years of time of working every day and executing, so much can happen. And you probably, like for myself, if I execute on what I can envision for the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, and what will happen in 5 years, I could have a 5-year plan, but dude, who knows what 5 years is going to hold? I mean, the opportunities are endless. That's a long time.
It's awesome. Yeah. I love hearing positivity in that regard, because it's, you know, one of the things too, like even with like this whole podcast coming out, you know, is like I'm part of a bunch of different groups on Facebook, and like you hear some people like positive, like business is picking up, they're looking at taking over more market share. Some people are like struggling, man. Like,
yeah,
crap's getting real. Shit's getting real. I don't know how I'm talking to this podcast, but like, and it hurts, man. It hurts, you know. And then I talked to one guy, and we were talking about kind of like what the whole essence of this podcast was going to be. And I was like, but I haven't even, I meet with him either today or tomorrow. But like, I was like, just kind of giving like an explanation, you know, there's kind of a direction, but there's also like a goal of like sharing back and forth of like people, like what people are doing, what people are struggling with, but also like, you know, like people like you who are like focusing on like the small things right now, not getting too bogged down by like what's going on, maintaining that positivity and all the, like, I don't know, it's been cool, you know. He shared something too. I can't remember like what I was going with it in a direction specifically, but just like, man, how you capitalize on like the trials and the obstacles that come your way is like how you live your life, you know. Like you can't, like, just because everything doesn't go your way all the time, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean that like things are over, you know. It's funny how that consistency plays out. I feel like we live in such a world where it's like we need it now, you know, versus thinking long term, and like that focus. It's just I don't know. I don't want to get lost in all that, but that could be a whole topic in itself.
When if you're not stretching yourself, if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not saying you are not saying yes to enough opportunities.
Yeah.
Because you should be. I mean, you learn so much through mistakes and through trying something new and trying to grow.
Right.
that you got to get back. I mean, you're going to mess up, you get back up, and you're stronger because of it at the end of the day. Maybe not right after you fall, right after you make the mistake. In that moment, it sucks, but the big picture, dude, so much stronger.
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about, that like if you go back and change something, hindsight 2020, it's like, would you actually change? You know, I've made tons of mistakes in my life. Goodness.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, but without
For
them, I
sure.
wouldn't be who I was today. You know, I wouldn't have the business I am. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different facets of it that's like, look back and not regret the past, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
So, kind of going to wrap up here. This last question is kind of my favorite, because it's gonna. I'm curious. There's one part of this I'm really curious on hearing what some people have to say in the future. Haven't got anything too crazy yet, but advice, thoughts, rude remarks, however politically incorrect it may be, that you have to offer anybody who may be listening to this in the future that might be struggling with this COVID stuff, or, you know, just might be looking to continue to take over more market share like you're focusing on and building. What's like one last thought that comes into your mind?
I had like 75 thoughts that came to my mind as you're saying that. So I think it just cut the noise. There's noise all the time anyways, but right now especially, cut the noise. And I get suckered into it too, but we consume so much content. But what you don't want is, you don't want to overconsume. Your ideas you've got to have an idea to make something happen. But if you're not willing to get out there and execute, the idea doesn't matter. It's worthless.
Yeah.
So you can listen to all this stuff, but if you sit there and never take a step, you're not going to go anywhere. So my advice in summary is start doing and trust yourself.
Yeah. It's awesome.
That's what I got.
Well, hey man, I'm gonna end the recording here in just a second. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Gene. This was awesome.
That was awesome. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna end this here.